good morning, good afternoon, welcome back to my channel, or welcome if you've never been here before. My name's Kacho and I try my absolute best to teach you about true crime cases. I do try to find cases that are relatively unknown, but every now and again we chuck in one that is more known. As you can see, this is a great start as I'm struggling to even form a sentence. It's been one of those days and I fear it's going to be one of those evenings, so you're just going to have to bear with me. I don't believe I have any housekeeping for today. If I do, I'll bring it up at the end. Oh, I do. I'm lying. I totally do have one bit of housekeeping. Someone previously commented on one of my videos saying I should add background music, which I don't know. But I have added some music to this. Maybe. I might have tried and not liked it. So there might be music in this, there might not. If you would like music, please let me know, because I'm just not sure. I don't know if it will work. I don't know if it's appropriate. I just don't know. Also, if you could let me know how you are liking the new intro, outro, the bloopers, the new sound, and the new editing. If you have even noticed a difference. If you haven't, great, because that's how I like it. If you have and you have any points or notes, again, please let me know. I don't care if they're negative. Constructive criticism is a good thing. So please just let me know. And if you could also like and subscribe, that would be awesome. Thank you very much. Today I'm going to be covering the case of Daniel LaPlante, which I believe I learned of through TikTok. The case is better known as the boy in the walls, and it is genuinely quite disturbing in all manner of ways. Trigger warnings for today's case include sexual assault, rape, and the death of children. So if any of those things are something you don't want to listen to at the moment, this isn't the case for you, and hopefully I'll see you for another one. Content warning, as always, strong language. Daniel was born on the 15th of May 1970 in Massachusetts. Daniel had quite a traumatic upbringing and a traumatic childhood. He suffered both sexual and psychological abuse, and I believe physical abuse, from his father and then eventually from his stepfather. It said the pair would just torment him regularly just for fun. Growing up, he ended up living full-time with his mum and his stepfather, and they just seemed to totally neglect Daniel. I don't think they really fed him, they definitely didn't wash him, he wasn't given clean clothes. And because of all of this led to him having issues at school because he was known to not be clean. And kids are assholes. Kids called him creepy and weird and smelly, and they bullied him for that. And because Daniel was a little bit different, and kids will find the smallest thing wrong with you or that you're insecure about and just poke at it. So this was an absolute playground for the horrible little bastards that were at his school. Daniel also struggled academically, and he would eventually go on to be diagnosed as dyslexic. He was sent to a psychiatrist for this for some reason. And they ended up diagnosing him with hyperactive disorder, which I've never heard of before, unless that's kind of part of... No, it's not part of ADHD. I've not heard of that before. And unfortunately, Daniel was sexually assaulted and sexually abused by a psychiatrist in these sessions, which is just absolutely horrendous. I don't know what age he was at this point, but no matter what age, he's a child. That's beyond disgusting. If you can hear snoring, by the way, my dog is very needy today and he's actually laying next to me. I will insert photos of him at the end. By the time Daniel was 14, he ended up going into kind of petty crimes and started breaking into people's homes. And by the age of 15, he was not just breaking into people's homes, he was also toying with the people who owned the homes. He would go in and make it very obvious that he'd been there and move things around in order to kind of freak people out, which is really fucked up. So I'm not sure what year this is because I have neglected to write it down. Here he kind of befriends a member of a new family, and this family consists of Brian the father and his two daughters, 15-year-old Annie and 9-year-old Jessica, and the family had unfortunately just lost their mother to cancer. Brian was working as hard as he possibly could to try and keep the household afloat, so he was not home most of the time, leaving Annie and Jessica home alone. One day, the family received a call, and it was from a boy, and it was from Daniel. Annie answered the phone, and before long, Daniel was calling there every day, and the pair were just chatting all the time. Daniel had said he'd got the home number from another boy at school, but he actually got the number by breaking into their home. So I think he broke into the home, saw the family photos and thought, oh, she's cute, let's ring them. Creepy. Daniel was quickly becoming obsessed with Annie, and he definitely catfished her. He told her that he was tall, blonde, athletic, smart, like every attribute you could kind of want in a person. Obviously, none of this was true. I believe he was quite short. He had dark hair and he was very skinny. So he was kind of the opposite of everything he was saying he was. The pair of them spoke on the phone together for about a week before Daniel eventually asked Annie to go out on a date, and she was super excited about this. Obviously, they'd been chatting for the past week and she was just excited to meet this mystery guy that was really, really into her. So date night comes around and Annie goes to the door and she's expecting a hot, tall, blonde, athletic boy there, and Daniel's there, which must have been a little bit of a shock because Daniel's small, skinny, greasy, 5'8", and dark hair, and probably didn't smell great. Annie had enjoyed speaking to Daniel on the phone for the past week, so she decided to still go ahead with the date despite him kind of lying about what he looked like. However, the date didn't really go great. So they're just walking around talking about their lives, and Annie mentions that she's just lost her mum, which is, it's very recent that she's just lost her mum. And when Daniel hears about this, he kind of like lights up. He gets really excited about it and starts asking really strange and inappropriate questions like, oh my God, so when did she die? How much did she suffer? Did you see the exact moment she died? Did like light go out of her eyes? And obviously this made Annie incredibly uncomfortable. About an hour into the day, Annie had kind of had enough of this, and she decides to cut the date short, and she makes it quite clear that she's not interested in having a second one and takes herself home. So a few days later, Jessica and Annie are home alone and they're just kind of chatting about their mum, and they decide it would be a good idea to do a Ouija board. Do not do Ouija boards. No. If you have a Ouija board, bin it. Don't do a Ouija board. It's no. Go watch any movie about a Ouija board. Don't do a Ouija board. And so they decide not to do it in their room. They have to go down to the basement to do this Ouija board, but they kind of see it as a comfort thing and they're hoping they can get in contact with their mum, which is very sweet, but please don't touch Ouija boards. Nothing happens and the girls decide to take themselves off to bed. Later that night, the girls can hear like a tapping noise on their walls, and it's in both of their rooms. So they run into each other and they think it's their mum trying to kind of come through to them. So they're so happy about this, and they stay up all night talking about all the memories they've had with their mum and just listening to this tapping noise. However, this tapping noise went on for weeks and weeks and weeks. And they told their dad Brian about it. He didn't believe them because it never happened when he was there. It would only happen when the girls were home alone. And it was when they were trying to get to sleep. So the girls were just not sleeping because this tapping noise was constant. And I think it was starting to drive them slightly insane. But then all of a sudden, things started to go missing around the house, such as clothing, food, furniture. They'd go missing, but they'd also move. They'd be in the place they absolutely were not left in. They kept going to their dad about this, but he thought it was them just kind of moving things and trying to keep the memory of their mum alive. He thought it was like a grief comfort thing. So he didn't really believe what they were saying. After a few weeks of all of this going on, the girls no longer thought this was their mum. They thought they had accidentally made contact with something evil because they knew their mum wouldn't do this to them if she knew it was scaring them, which it was. One night in 1987, the two girls are home alone once again and they hear the tapping noise start up. But this time it sounds like it's coming from the basement. So these brave, badass bitches go get a massive kitchen knife and go down to the basement. They have got balls, because I couldn't do that. The thought of going down to a basement that's not making a tapping noise fills me with dread, so fair play. However, when they get to the basement, the tapping noise stops. Although the tapping noise has stopped, there is a message that's been written in the basement, and it's been written in something red, which is supposed to look like blood, I'm assuming. And it said, "I'm in your room, come and find me." And I would have simply passed away there and then. No, that is just, it's a horror movie. That is a horror movie. I won't even go to Dr. Fright Nights, which I'm a massive horror movie fan. I won't go to any Dr. Frights or Haunted Maze. And everyone's like, oh my God, I thought you'd be so into that. No, I like horror movies. I don't want to be in one. Nah. If someone in a costume or with a chainsaw or a fake axe or something runs at me, I will either piss myself, cry, or swing at them. And I don't want to do any of those things. So the girls obviously completely freaked out, as they should have, ran upstairs and got the fuck out of the house. They ran to a neighbour's house and explained what had happened and waited there until their dad got home. When their dad got home, he went to investigate and saw the message. Thankfully, it was not in blood, it was just in tomato sauce. But he wasn't supportive about this at all. He was actually quite annoyed because he believed it was the girls doing this. And he was starting to get quite concerned about his girls' behaviour and just thought, this isn't normal. This is obviously something to do with grief and they're not processing it in a healthy way. So he actually put the girls into grief counselling, which is very, very good. And over the next few weeks, the tapping and everything else stopped. So brilliant. Everything's going really well for the girls. Everything's stopped, everything's died down, everything's left them alone. However, one day, a few weeks later, the tapping starts again. She goes and grabs her massive kitchen knife again because she is badass, and she's following the tapping noise and it's leading them up to Annie's bedroom. In the doorway, there is another message written on the door that says, I am back, come and find me. Girls run to the neighbour's house again, explain what's going on, and the neighbour calls Brian because he can see, I don't know what their gender is. They can see what state the girls are in and they're concerned about them. So they ring Brian straight away and say, you need to come home. Brian is initially a little bit pissed off because he's like, oh, I thought we were over this, like, here we go again. But when he gets home, the whole house has been completely tipped upside down. It's been like ransacked. So Brian's investigating around the house and he goes up to Annie's room where the message was written, but the message that was originally there isn't there anymore, and it's just a message that says, marry me. So at this point he realises the girls haven't been lying, and this entire time they've been being tormented by something, and everything they said was true, and they have genuinely been struggling with whatever the hell has been toying with them. And out of the corner of his eye he sees a young boy wearing a blonde wig, his dead wife's wedding dress, and holding a hatchet. Tell me that's not the scariest thing you've ever fucking heard. Because if it isn't, you're lying. As soon as Brian sees this boy, he runs after him, but the boy runs and he just seems to kind of vanish. The police are called and they search the house from top to bottom, and eventually in one of the crawl spaces they find Daniel LaPlante. This was a bit of crawl space in Annie's room that no one knew was there. So Brian recognises this young boy as the boy he has just chased around the house, and Annie notices this boy and says, that's the boy I went on a date with. So Daniel was arrested at the scene and they figure that he's been living there for around 2 months, just in the walls. There was a sleeping bag, clothes, rubbish, like bits of food, all things that kind of you'd expect to find if you found a squatter in your crawl space. So while they were looking into the crawl space, they found passageways that went across the entire house. So he could get all around the house without actually being really in the house. He was just in the fucking wall. Ugh. And just in case it wasn't creepy enough, he'd actually made peepholes in every single room in the house. So he was just spying on everyone. Daniel was placed in a juvenile detention centre because he was only 16 at the time he was arrested for these crimes. And he ended up being in there for 10 months in 1987. However, when he turned 17, he went to court, like proper court. And he was charged with kidnapping, armed assault, breaking and entering, larceny, and malicious destruction of property. His mother, however, helped him pay for his bail, so he was free to roam around and move in with his mother and stepfather whilst he was awaiting trial. He was due to appear in court on the 11th of December 1987, but in the 2 months he had to freely roam around, he committed some more crimes. In November, he broke into a neighbour's home and stole 2 .22 caliber handguns. And this is the worst part. If you thought him being in the walls was bad, this is genuinely very, very disturbing. Sorry. On the 1st of December, he walked about a mile to the home of the Gestapin family. Their family consisted of 33-year-old Priscilla, her husband 34-year-old Andrew, and their 2 children, 7-year-old Abigail and 5-year-old Andrew. Priscilla was also pregnant with their 3rd child at the time. Daniel broke into the home, and Priscilla and William were the only people in the home at the time. Abigail was at school and Andrew was at work. It's not known exactly what happened or how it played out, but Daniel went upstairs to the master bedroom where he found Priscilla. I believe he tied her up, sexually assaulted her, then put a pillow over her face and shot her twice in the head, killing her. He then went and found Andrew and drowned him in the bathtub. Abigail finished school and she walked from the bus stop back home, and when she got home, Daniel drowned her in the downstairs bathtub. When poor Andrew had finished work, he got home around 5 p.m. He went into the house, called out for his wife and got no response. He went into the master bedroom and found her lying face down and blood everywhere. He then ran out of the house and called the police because he couldn't bear the thought of what exactly had happened to his children, and he couldn't see that. In the master bedroom, they found semen on the bed, they found shell casings, I think they found open drunk beers. Sorry, it was an open and untouched beer, and footprints in the flower bed outside. So there was a lot of evidence for them to start going off of. The police started looking straight away for who the hell could have done this to this poor family. And Daniel went pretty much straight to the top of their suspect list very quickly because he had just been released from juvenile detention and he was known for breaking into people's homes. And this time he just one-upped what he'd been doing. They found Daniel at his local library where he denied having any involvement. He said he was at home all day and then went to his niece's sixth birthday party. Later that day, police went back to Daniel's house in order to question him, and Daniel was actually sat on the porch. And as soon as he saw police turn up, he ran into the woods, which is possibly the best way to look as innocent as possible, in my opinion. Just run from the police. You see police, you run. That's the way to look innocent. So whilst they're running after Daniel, the police actually go in and search the house, and they find the .22 caliber gun that was used in the murder. They found a pair of shoes that fit the prints that were found in the flower bed. They found a pair of wet gloves they believe had been used to drown both children. They found a sock with saliva on it that they believe had been used to gag Priscilla. And they found tights, socks and neckties all tied together. One of his socks that they'd found had fibres from the Gestapo house on it. And they also found items that were missing from the house that he'd obviously stolen on his way out as a final insult. So a manhunt then started for Daniel because obviously he'd ran into the woods. So I think it involved around 50 police, it involved helicopters, dogs, everything. They needed to find Daniel. He was clearly very dangerous. Whilst he was on the run, he actually abducted a woman. He made her drive him around at gunpoint, and thankfully she had managed to escape physically unharmed, but probably not mentally. But she'd ran to the police and told them what had happened to her, so they now knew what vehicle to look for because that was the vehicle Daniel was in. Thanks to sightings that were called in by various members of the public, they found Daniel on the 3rd of December at around 6:30 p.m. and he was found around 11 miles from home, hiding behind a bin. When police found him, he was obviously arrested and charged with 3 counts of murder. He had a gun down his trousers. He was obviously arrested for murder, but there was a long old list of everything else he was being charged with as well. October 1988, Daniel's trial started to take place. He was 18 at the time, but he was 17 at the time the crimes were committed. However, the judge ruled that he would be tried as an adult. Good. Daniel pled not guilty to all charges, of course. He had to undergo a psychiatric evaluation to see if he was fit to stand trial, which he was. It took the jury just 5 hours to convict him on all charges, which meant he was sentenced to 3 consecutive life sentences. In 1993, he appealed on the grounds that his house should not have been searched. This was rejected. He just sounds like, you know, when you just think he couldn't get much more of an arsehole, he just continues to be a fucking arsehole, even in prison. So in 2000, he requested to be moved and segregated for his safety, which he was. But then because he was segregated, he couldn't access the library because there was other prisoners in it. So they fulfilled his wishes. He then sued the prison because he didn't have access to the library. Make fucking sense. And guess what? He won. He got $450 in compensation. What are you going to spend it on? What can you spend it on? Do they have access to Amazon? Oh God, he's such a dick. So in 2013, he claimed he was not able to express his faith because he had recently become Wiccan. So in order to express his faith, he needed to be bought a whole load of shit, like dragon's blood, carrot cake, black opium, and honeysuckle. What? You should be Am I wrong in thinking you should be miserable if you're in prison? You shouldn't be allowed to express shit. You should be fucking miserable. You killed 3 people, including 2 children, and probably ruined that poor man's life. You don't deserve shit. In 2017, he appealed for a reduced sentence. So the Supreme Court had ruled that juveniles should not be awarded whole life sentences without the possibility of parole. So he wanted to run his sentences like on top of each other instead of in a row. It's the worst way to explain that ever, but you know what I mean. This was rejected. They said fuck off. And I thought it'd be rejected anyway because he was tried as an adult. Whether he was a minor at the time or not, he was actually tried as an adult. Some crimes, I don't care if you're 14 when you do something like that. That is very wrong. Whatever. But this was denied. But unfortunately, the bastard will be eligible for parole in 2032. So when that time comes around, there probably will be a petition going around. I urge you to sign it. I know that's in a very long time. Well, it's not even that long, but it's in quite a long time. I urge you to sign it. Some good news about Andrew to finish on. So in 1989, Andrew remarried and he married a woman named Carol who was also a widow. And both of them wear both of their wedding bands, which I think is just absolutely beautiful. And the couple went on to have 2 children together. And that is the end of today's case. I did tell you it was a horrible one, so if you chose to stick around, that is on you. Right, we need a positive thought of the day. Positive thought of the day. I don't think I have one. A positive thought of the day, just because it's been a running theme in this video and will be in the outtakes, is my dog. My dog is genuinely the best thing in my life. He is getting old now and he's getting greyer by the day, and I am so scared if I'm ever going to lose him. That will be the worst heartbreak of my life. It will genuinely crush me like nothing ever has before. So I just try and make every day with him, like, he is my dog. He comes to me, he's asleep in my bed right now. He's just the love of my life. I'm a real big animal person, and that dog has stolen my entire heart. If you're not an animal person, I don't trust you. Get the fuck out. My positive thought of the day is my dog, so I'll add lots of pictures of my dog because you deserve to see how beautiful he is. And if you don't think pugs are beautiful, you're wrong. That is it from me today. I will be doing Linda Bailey Brown and Cinnamon Brown next week. I know I said I'd do it this week, but I had a change of heart. So I will be doing that next week. But until then, make good choices. Be wary of children. It's concerning how quickly crimes can escalate, just going from something quite petty, and then going to something that's playing with someone's mind, and then just straight up living in someone's house and tormenting them, and then murdering someone. It's very concerning. Bail needs to be looked at harder before it's just granted. Yeah. Just be careful. There's a lot of weirdos out there. Don't get murdered. I'll see you next week. Love you. Bye. Oh God, I love a blanket. God, I love you. Just look at your dog and think I would totally die for you. Why do you smell like you've shit yourself? Why do you smell like that? Evening. I've got hair on my face. So get into me already. Stop burping. No, sorry. No. And all of the sudden, what was I going to do? I was going to do something, and does it? Yes, it does. My phone is so dry. Hello, Fluff. I need to shut that door because I can see someone. Can you come in or go out? Really testing my patience today. No, that's a lie. Shut. in by various members. Sorry.